goes along with the low carb thing, focus more on diet composition at first rather than portions. So make sure you get your balance right before you start cutting back on portions. And I'm going to talk about portion control in a bit, but I just want to make that clear that if you have a lot of weight to lose, portion control is your last step. I know it sounds like it should be like your first step, like you need to eat less, but the first thing you need to do is eat better, and then you can work on eating less. So, and if you're like in the category of people that wants to lose some weight but doesn't necessarily need to lose a ton of weight, so you only want to lose 10, 15 pounds, something on that range, then that's when portion control is going to play more of a role for you. Moderation and like sort of just finding that balance of how much you can eat of certain things and still continue to lose weight or not gain weight or whatever. So your approaches are going to be different depending on how much weight you want to lose and what the state of your metabolism is when you start. But no matter what, if you want to lose weight, my first piece of advice to everyone always is to stop eating sugar. Sugar causes weight gain more than any other food, and it causes insulin resistance. It causes all sorts of problems. We've talked about sugar before. There's another episode, I'll link to it, about sugar and how dangerous it is. And so, you know, when I say how much sugar should you eat if you're trying to lose weight, I say 1 or 2, what I would call dessert servings a month. If you actually want to lose weight, you really got to cut down on sugar. And when those 1 or 2 servings, they shouldn't be big either. They should be small. And because you don't need dessert. I mean, dessert's one of those bonus things in life. And if you just, you know, I'm all about like not having deprivation, but like, you know, if you really want to lose weight, the reality is like the treats can wait. You don't need them to live, you know, and just have that 1 or 2 a month so you're not like a complete social exile. But, you know, as far as in my experience, like cutting out sugar is the best way to lose weight. And what I mean, so cut down the desserts to 1 or 2 times a month max. And just as important, cut out sugary drinks. So this is most people don't even realize how many calories they drink. I would just recommend cutting out all soda, juice, cocktails. That's a dangerous one. I mean, those like a margarita can have like 700-800 calories. You know, just imagine you go out and have like 2 or 3 of those. You know what I mean? It's not good. Those coffee drinks, like you're getting mochas, you're getting lattes even, and adding some sugar, like the bad news. And even things like vitamin water and Gatorade. Just stay away from that stuff. And honestly, even though technically like diet soda don't have sugar in them, you're best getting off those too. And the reason I say that is because your brain is still being addicted to sugar when you're drinking those. Your taste buds still expect that much sweetness. They're sickly sweet. And you will have better success cutting out sugar in the rest of your life if you cut out the fake sugars too. So I recommend cutting those out. I know it's hard. I used to be a total Diet Coke addict, so I understand. But and I'll link to the How to Break a Diet Coke Addiction in the show notes. And also, if you're cutting back on sugar, and this is probably the hardest part, is keeping an eye out for sugar that's in regular foods. And the reason this is hard is because Western culture is so screwed up that there's sugar in almost everything. And this is why I'm so big on cutting out processed foods and not eating at chain restaurants and stuff, because it's almost impossible to eat there and get anything healthy. For example, this is another story I'll link. I did a story on like just sugar content of common foods. And one of the most shocking things on the list was the Thai chicken salad from California Pizza Kitchen. Sounds fairly healthy, right? Had something like 50 grams of sugar in it. And just to put that in perspective, Krispy Kreme glazed donut had 11 grams of sugar. So, I mean, it's an insane amount of sugar. And if you want to, I like to say around 15 grams of sugar is your cutoff for like dessert. Like if it's more than 15 grams of sugar, it's dessert. And that includes yogurt, you know, most yogurts. But just beware. And so keep an eye out for words that sound like sugar in regular food, like glaze, caramelized, you know, stuff like that. Just be aware. Ask the server if you're at a restaurant what are the ingredients. Check the package. I just sent everyone a link about how to identify sugars in foods that pretend like they're healthy, even though they have like 15 different kinds of sugar in them. So yeah, salad dressings are a big offender. Any sauce, be careful with any sauce. And sadly, that even includes most tomato sauces. Check the labels very carefully or make them yourself. Tomato season's coming right up. And yogurts are another one that's really bad. I was hanging out with some friends the other day. I had this wonderful gourmet yogurt. It was delicious, but I took a bite of it. They told me it was this wonderful stuff, and it tasted to me like exactly like a cheesecake, or like the kind of cream cheese frosting you put on carrot cake or something. Like, it was delicious, but I tasted it. I was like, this is like frosting. And, most people can't even identify that as sweet. They're just like, oh, it's breakfast food. But it's not. It's tons and tons of sugar. So be careful with stuff like that. Be careful with added sugars in regular foods that you don't think are dessert. And again, just the same thing with reiterate the point I was making with the Diet Coke, is that your goal here is, yes, to reduce the sugar you're eating, but also to reduce your taste for sugar and cut back on what your normal taste for sugar is. Because, if you really want to keep weight off, sugar is not one of those things you can have you have to understand that your relationship with sugar is always going to be sort of in balance. You can never go nuts on sugar. It's not good for anyone, and it is very fattening. So, and so to cut back on cravings, rely on fruit, and I find that intact grains are very, very helpful for cutting back on sugar cravings, because you are getting that low dose of insulin that your body's craving, this like high blood sugar dosage, and so by giving it a small grated one instead, which is what you get when you get those slowly digesting grains, it makes it easier to withstand those sugar cravings when you're not like dying for some blood sugar. So I recommend that. So step 2 in your weight loss program would be to limit bread, anything made with flour, or any other processed grains. And just, and it's for the same reason as the sugar. It's not as bad for you, but it doesn't help with weight loss. Bread will really stall your weight loss. And so I would, as a guideline, I would say for myself personally, I limit bread if I want to lose weight to once, and bread or pasta to once or twice a week. And it might not sound like very much to you. And if you eat a lot more than that now, like if you're having it 3 times a day, you don't need to cut back to once or twice a week right away. You can do it gradually. So, cut down to once or twice a day if you're having it 3 times a day. Or maybe every other day, skip bread completely or something like that. You can do it gradually. That's fine. But the more you phase that out and start relying more, get your carb sources from more intact grains and more slowly digesting sources, the faster the weight will come off, because that can be really, really a slower on the weight loss front. And I recommend replacing those calories with beans and lentils. Those are great sources of, starches that are going to not really contribute to weight gain, and intact grains and nuts and vegetables. I often, at some point I got to the point where I can just skip the starch part of my meal altogether and just have a big old serving of vegetables, and I'm totally fine. So start to make those changes, and weight loss will get a lot easier from then on. So that's basically, like, those are my main food advice for most people for weight loss. Step 3, though, I think is also important, and I just want to, I have move more. And this is different from the activity that I mentioned at the beginning where I said you should start exercising. This is just stop being your normal lazy self. And we are all naturally lazy. I don't know anyone who'd rather, not park closer or not have to take the stairs or whatever, but it's not as bad as you think it is, and you need to sort of get out of the habit of being that sort of daily lazy. And it's actually kind of fun. When you can kind of make a game out of it. Like Virginia mentioned in the chat room, pedometers are great for this. Make it a game. Or I used to have a Fitbit, and it tells you how much you move every day, and you can compete against yourself every single day, and you try to get it up to those 10,000 steps a day, which is the goal, and that's great. When I started doing this, I effortlessly lost a couple pounds just by getting around more. So take the stairs, park far away and walk in and haul those groceries out to the back of the parking lot. It's good for you. Take the stairs, walk to lunch, walk to visit your coworkers. Take the stairs. Even when you're on an escalator, walk up the escalator. Sometimes in a mall, there's no stairs that are obvious and you have to take the escalator. Walk up if you can, if people aren't in your way. I'll say take the stairs one more time. And you know, volunteer to clean the house, do the dishes, take out the garbage. Any extra little movement helps a lot. Walk around. Like, I once saw a study about how much more weight someone lost, or the calorie difference between someone who chose to like clean up and do dishes and vacuum after dinner as opposed to sit down in front of the TV and like have another snack after dinner. And the difference in calories was like 900 calories or something preposterous over like a 3 or 4 hour period. So not that you need to do that every night, but you know, just go, you know, just try to think about it differently. This is another one of those mindset things. Like, you think you don't want to move more, but you do. Start thinking that you do want to move more. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be formal exercise. Just move around the house more, walk to the corner store instead of driving. That sort of stuff. It's actually really fun. I recommend it. And then on top of all this, you can supplement with light cardio and strength training when you can. But I don't think that's as important as the daily movements, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. And I will link to that article as well. And finally, oh gosh, this is taking a long time. Finally, the next step is to reduce portions. And like I said before, this is for advanced people. Do not skip to this step. Do not skip to this step. It will backfire. Most people won't even need to reduce portions. But if you feel like you already eat really healthy, and you know, maybe you could cut out some sugar, but whatever, you're still having trouble like losing that extra weight, like that last 5-10 pounds, you can start to reduce portions. And this actually does help. But don't starve yourself, and don't cut out more than 200 calories a day. I mean, don't go from like 2,500 calories a day to 1,200. That's not healthy. And it'll make you starving, and you'll end up eating something really bad, and you'll be mad at yourself all over again. So don't make that mistake. Just start to use the measurements. You know, when you're eating, like, not am I full, but am I still hungry? And stop eating when you're still hungry. And if you need to eat again later, that's fine. Just get in the habit of taking in smaller portions. Eventually your stomach actually does kind of shrink. And again, this is for advanced people who only have a few pounds to lose, but the easiest places to cut calories, because they just have a lot of calories, I find is meat, cheese, and other dairy products. So although I have no problem with saturated fat these days, I do find that the less meat I eat, me personally, the more weight I'll lose. And I don't lose muscle, I just get lean. And that's just because I feel like I'm already very close to my ideal body weight. So when I just want to lose a few pounds, it works. It's very effective for me. But most people don't need to do this. I said that like 5 times, but it's true. So what you should replace these things with. So you don't necessarily have to eat that much less. The goal is to reduce calories. So this is where the volumetrics can come in handy, because if you just eat more veggies or more beans, that can actually be really effective to lower your overall calorie intake, and you don't feel deprived at all. This is the best trick ever. Just, you know, sometimes I'll just have for dinner, have like a whole bunch of kale and like some beans. And it's like, you're really full. I ate an entire bunch of kale and beans. And, you know, but it's like hardly any calories. And, you know, when you want to lose weight and that's your goal, you know, strategies like that can be really effective. So here's a few tips. So reducing portions is easier said than done, right? Because restaurants are like, you know, disgusting and in their sizes. And, you know, you start eating fast and it's hard to stop. And sometimes you just want to keep eating. So my recommendations are eat at home, because anything you cook at home is going to be healthier, and you can control the portion sizes yourself. So if you don't want to eat more than a certain amount, cook a small amount, and you won't have that problem. Cook simple meals. So this actually is pretty effective for controlling how much you want to eat at a given meal. So if you have a very complicated dish, you're going to want to eat a little of everything, but stick to sort of one pot meal type things. Stir fries are great. I frequently eat, I linked to a recipe for a bean salad the other day, like stuff like that I have for lunch all the time. It's really great, and it's just like a small little thing, and it doesn't make you full, but you just feel really good. It's actually, ideal for before workout, for like an hour before workout, because nothing, it's not sitting heavy in your stomach. Another trick is to use smaller plates, smaller forks. Use taller glasses rather than wider glasses. Again, chew thoroughly. Eat with other people. Turn off that dang TV. Sit down, have a proper meal. Eat slowly. Use silverware. Sip water between bites. Put your fork down between bites. Don't let yourself get too hungry, because if you're really hungry, it's really hard to eat a small amount. Your eyes just overshoot your stomach by a lot. So don't get too hungry, but also don't get too full. And learn to feel comfortable with an empty stomach. It's sort of a feeling that you can get used to, but it's not a bad one. And even intermittent fasting, it can be useful. But there's a difference between having an empty stomach and being hungry, because your body could still be nourished. So learn to sort of figure out those boundaries and what you can get away with for yourself, and just go longer between meals if you can. Another little trick that I use sometimes when it's hard to stop eating is just brush your teeth when you're done. Once you have toothpaste in your mouth, like, you don't really want to eat anymore. It's great. And don't get too drunk, because drunk people make poor decisions and they have a lot of trouble with self-restraint. And I've seen it many a time. You go out and you have a party, and then everyone wants to go get pizza because you've been out late and you don't have any self-restraint, and then everybody feels like crap in the morning. So, for many reasons. So those are my tips for controlling portions. And that is it. That is what I do when I want to lose weight, and that's my recommendations for people to get there. And the last thing I want to cover is maintenance. And actually, Aisha wrote in with a question: how do you transition to maintenance? And